Hey guys, welcome to another ManOn2nd podcast. I'm Mike Sonbeek, joined as always by Joe Frisaro. And Joe, I know we want to give a little shout out to our dugout mugs friends, so why don't you get us going with that?
Yeah. You see them right here on the desk. We have this. We've kind of teamed up with Dugout Mugs, a little promotional deal, and great products. We hope baseball gets up and rolling at the big league level soon. But Dugout Mugs is great for every fan. They have the wood mugs. They got the aluminum. Here you see it's the Dugout mug. This one was my Rays. And I'm going to be getting a Marlins one in the near future as well. I think they're really cool. If you're interested in getting dugout mugs, good, post holiday and, get ready for spring training and so forth. Simply go to the website, go dugoutmugs.com/ManOn2nd and order your dugout mugs today. Again, dugoutmugs.com/ManOn2nd, ManOn2nd. So with that, we'll get into our show.
Yeah, and we'll be back with another one early next week too, so we're coming double at you here now. But there's some topics that we need to talk about today because some news came out yesterday after the MLB and the MLBPA met for the first time in what, 5 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Things really, from what it seems like, not much progress was made. But where do you see things standing right now, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is talks are resumed. We hope that the union, the Players Association, makes their counter. Not any real traction on the real significant issues in terms of the economic structure. But, some common ground, it appears, is the universal DH. So it looks like in 2022, whenever that starts, there will be a universal DH, which for clarity for these teams, they can build their rosters accordingly. There's a lot of positive talks about expanded playoffs, but from what I understand, the league would like to go to about 14 teams. I think the association no more than 12. So and it could be in that 10 to 12. The 12. Well, there is 10 now, so it would go 12 or 14. So we'll see where they settle there, but. That I really think means a lot for teams. If you want to remove the word tanking, it allows teams that are a little more built to be 500 with a player or two to add in July. They could become a contender for a playoff spot. So I think you'll see teams, that feel they're closer to going, being ready to seriously contend for championships will have some impetus to try to get that and try to get to become a playoff team. The draft, Mike, I don't know what you think about it. I don't really think the number one overall pick or draft positioning is as big a deal as some do. And I say that because we see it all the time. You can have number one overall pick and you take who on many boards are the 10th best player because you're manipulating the draft how you feel accordingly. There's very rarely universal consensus on this is the number one player in the draft. It's not like college football is in for the NFL. Oh, Trevor Lawrence was like more of the consensus that, if you want a franchise quarterback, you go that route. But there seems to be discussions there where there seems to be some common ground in terms of some sort of a lottery system. So the team with the worst record doesn't automatically get it. There'll be a little pool. I don't know whether 3-5 teams or whatever might end up the bottom. They might be in a lottery situation to determine who's number one overall. But those are areas that seem to be salvageable rather quickly. The other areas a little more difficult is, I guess, the players will like arbitration after 2 years. The owners seem pretty, adamant about it remaining 3, but they seem to be willing to get rid of the Super 2, which I think we all would like to see if you're the best player. We saw, throughout the years, the Marlins calling up guys in May, June. All teams do, obviously. But that's an issue. Are you going to go from 6 years to 5 years? And then, how are you going to divide the pie? Are you going to have, the salary ceiling, for the tax, luxury tax is going to be over 215 million or whatever that number is, or 245. There's haggling over that. Both sides seem pretty entrenched in their positions, and right now, not a lot of optimism, but we'll see how quickly they get to ramping up talks to try to get this done in before February 1, if possible.
I'm interested why, and I don't know if you have information on this or you would know the opinion, why the MLBPA is against an expansion of the playoffs to 14 teams. I'm in favor of not expanding the playoffs either. I don't think playoffs should be expanded that much. But I would like to know from the players' perspective of why they don't like that.
Yeah, I have not specifically heard on that, other than I think that it's more of that revenue that goes more exclusively to the owners. I think there's probably a little bit of concern of watering it down too much and minimizing the 162, and I think we could all agree on that. That could be a concern. We just saw a year where the team won 107 games, didn't get to in the Giants. They couldn't get out of the division round, and the Dodgers, who won 106 games with a wild card, were on the road against the Braves, who had the worst division record, yet went on and won the World Series. So once it does kind of, yes, it's there's nothing guaranteed. Obviously, the regular season should matter, and I think that may be a big reason why. But I would like to see expanded at least to 12. In time, if you expand your from 30 to 32 teams and want to go to 14, I think down the road we could see that type of stuff. But I don't see MLB expansion anytime soon, especially when they're trying to resolve the Rays situation, with their stadium and the Oakland Athletics as well.
So when we would talk about this a couple months ago, when the lockout was looming, we always said like maybe a January 1st date. Like we kept on throwing out these dates where, this needs to be resolved. It needs to be resolved. But it's January 13th now. We still don't have a resolution. You just mentioned February 1st. At what point do we get scared about spring training not starting on time? Or is this a realistic thing and we should be prepared? Spring training is not starting and we have to start focusing on, will the regular season start on time?
Yeah, I think we're getting close to that where, I think unless significant ground is made up fairly soon, spring training starting on time, which I believe is February 16th, could be in jeopardy because, you got to resolve this. I always remain hopeful, and the first offers are never really, that's what negotiations are about. But I would be lying if I didn't say I was concerned that a full spring training isn't going to happen. I do kind of, we talked about this with Tim Healy of Newsday, formerly of South Florida Sun-Sentinel, that, a lot of people think 6 weeks is too long anyway for spring training. A lot of the veteran players especially don't mind 1 month. There's kind of that. So I think if you got 1 full month of spring training, compared to, so does that push it to March 1st? Well, if you get to March 1st, now you're getting, you need 4 weeks to get ready for opening day. And that's going to push opening day in jeopardy. So you got to put yourself in position where everyone's ready to go. Now you can't just say, okay, here we are. We reached an accord. We have a new CBA. Well, now you still have, to finish out your offseason. The teams still have to sign their arbitration players. There's still trades that could be made and free agents that are still out there. So you probably want to build in at least 2 weeks before you send people to camp of resolving, business in like free agents who are pending and arbitration guys who need to sign.
So when should we start? I guess my question is, if this gets resolved by February 1st, 2 weeks, are we looking at 2 weeks to sign everybody? Are we looking at regular season on time? And if we don't start the regular season on time, are we getting a shortened regular season, or is everything going to get pushed back?
Yeah, I don't really want to go there just yet, Mike, because that's, but I do agree. I do agree that, meaning opening day, how much of spring training, whether the regular season goes on time, that's another ball game. I'm not ready to go there, because you want to hope that it gets resolved, before then. Could I see a week of the season? Speculative, but it depends how entrenched are the sides that they feel. that how much they're willing to do. All I know is we're all living this as citizens in this country. We have a pandemic. We have protocols still in place. We got 7% inflation. We have businesses that are struggling, and I think it's affecting all sports, college and professionally. I think that you don't want to lose any sliver of your fan base, because there's no guarantee you're going to get that back. Now, it's just kind of the reality of it right now.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty that's coming from this lockout, but one of the things that's going to be interesting, because this is always seems to be a topic in baseball, is the big markets versus small markets. Marlins, technically a small market team. How do you think the talks and the lockouts really, I know you touched on it a little bit a couple minutes ago, but how much do you really think is going to affect the small market teams, and are they going to be able to compete more after these lockouts?
Yeah, it just depends what the final terms are. For a market like Miami, which has always been a hard sell anyway, to get the fans energized, just think about what was just lost. I mean, my family has been through the years, not currently, because my kids are not living at home anymore. But we were at one point full season ticket holders, my family, as well as, and through various years, partial season tickets. And I know that the marketing offices are trying to sell tickets, but it's like it's hard. How I'm sure not just for Miami, but for a lot of teams, with complete certainty that to sell season tickets. And we already now you're going to have to crash course all that, and how many people. And I know the holidays have always been, in years past, we would be getting ready for a fan fest and a select a seat event. So I think it does hurt a market like Miami a little more than the Mets. I mean, the Mets have a lot of energy and synergy going their way with the moves they've made, and the signings they've made, and the history of New York, baseball, that I think it's easier for them to rile their fan base up to buy tickets if and when than it is a market like here, where the Marlins are always fighting for publicity, and in their many cases favorable, and then getting people to buy in, to want to buy Marlins season tickets or tickets in general for Marlins games. So I think it definitely does impact our market more than the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Red Sox and so on with the bigger teams.
Yeah, but I want to know on insight, if you have any insight on the actual, is there anything being done, like salary floor, things like that actually helps them compete on the field going on in these talks?
I think there's the market size, like the Marlins and the Rays are very careful to make sure that they can protect. These are the organizations that are the draft, sign, develop organizations. If everything's geared towards making free agency faster, we're already talking about increased minimum wage, and more than likely, more salaries are going to be going up, obviously, and when development in the markets like the Marlins. They, obviously drafted like a Christian Yelich, for instance, and drafted and developed him, and he became a great player. And then they even signed him, but because of what happened, felt forced to trade him. Are we going to lose a Yelich a year earlier? Or are we going to? This is my concern. If you go 5 years for free agency, and you're a player like JJ Bleday, who let's say has a great big league career, who signed for over six, almost $7 million out of Vanderbilt. Yeah. Now he already got a pretty good payday on his signing bonus, obviously, and he sits around and goes real early on. Do I want to sign with the Marlins, or wait and get to free agency at not 5 years isn't that far of a wait. I could go 2 years to get ARB. And then hit the market a lot faster. And And then the Marlins never really get the prime years of the player. So I think that those are legit concerns, that the competitive balance for the smaller market teams will be affected. I mean, the Rays signed Wander Franco. We love to see that. You could always make that bold move, but are you going to sign? Are you going to sign Cahill Watson, who let's say he becomes a superstar? Are you going to? And he shows that. This market. We've seen 20-year-olds come up. We've had Jose Fernandez. We've had Giancarlo. We had Miguel Cabrera. We've had these guys at 20 come up and be really impactful right away. The Ronald Acuñas are doing that, and the Sotos. When you get that player, are they going to be less likely to sign that player?
I wonder if that would make teams be more into like signing these extensions to these big name players before they even reach the majors. I know that's happened a couple times before.
Yeah.
But I wonder if you have a good prospect that's playing well in the minor leagues and they're close and you just throw them a little contract extension, then I wonder if that's like something that would happen if we cut the service years.
Oh, I think it's very possible. Yeah. I mean, these are all things that have to be, and look at it the other way, Mike. Let's say you penalize, or you're trying to get rid of the word tanking. Okay. You got the Orioles. Everyone down here thinks the Marlins are just going to go trade for Cedric Mullins, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, he's a young, affordable, controllable player for the Orioles. You could also say, oh, the Orioles stink. Okay. Their record, makes you say that. They're in division with the Yankees, the Rays. We know who they're in the division with. Well, now they're mandated to try to win. What incentive would they have to trade Mullins?
Yeah.
So the Pirates traded Jacob Stallings to Miami. The Marlins lost 95 games last year. Let's remember. I know there's a lot of sugarcoating going on, but that's a 95 loss team trying to step up and become a real contender. What if these rules come out and say, you know what, let's lose 85 games because that's better for us than to lose 95 games? What's my incentive to trade these guys? So you're going to constantly be playing with, so, and then the trade deadline, where all these teams are going to, I'm going to go get myself a pitcher. Well, are teams going to feel I can't, if I trade my ace right now, or I'm going to let him walk because I'm going to get punished if I trade my ace in a free agent year? I don't understand how they're going to really figure that out, because these all have consequences. These might sound good at the table, but what you're going to force teams that are bad to keep good players to win a few extra games, so they're not penalized and now how happy are those players going to be when they're not moved to a contender? So I have never really heard an explanation on how they think this is going to, help teams win faster, or you're just going to be mediocre longer. The tanking teams like the Astros won it all, the Cubs won it all. Those were the examples, but then the Marlins have tanked for years and haven't won a lot. So there's no guarantee either way.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting. To me, this lockout, I feel like, is necessary, but it's going to be probably the biggest change we've seen year to year from baseball, and really change how we're going to look at it until these CBAs are 15 years long, 10, 15 years long?
No, 6. I think that's one thing I did hear. Yeah, the past have been like 5, but I think what they're talking about is 6 year. I think I heard on MLB Network this morning.
So a little bit more than a half decade, and probably so on. This is going to change the way we see Major League Baseball for a long time. But I want to go into international signings, because that's always in the Caribbean or something. They think they're going to get it, and that's fine, and it's fun. But let's talk about international signings, because we know that the Marlins aren't in on any high-name guys right now. But is there anyone you can look for? And for some fun's sake, what are some of your favorite Marlins international signings over the years?
Well, let's just a refresher. The signing period starts tomorrow, so there will be news. On Saturday is the first day of international signing, and in the deadline, it's kind of weird. It goes all the way to December 15th. So that's the 2022. It used to be, fans would probably remember, it used to be July 2nd deal. They would always do the signing period then. Because of the COVID and other reasons, they decided to do it January 15th. And each team, the Marlins a couple of years ago, that's when they signed the Mesa brothers. There was a lot of excitement over that. The Marlins aren't in on the real high end names in terms of the guys that are going to make $4 or $5 million or whatever. The top name out there, according to my good friend Jesse Sanchez of MLB.com, MLB Pipeline, is Roderick Arias, a shortstop from the Dominican Republic, switch hitter. I saw some video of this kid, Mike. If he's 16 years old, I mean, good Lord. I mean, he looks like he's 25. He's like a man child. And where do you think he's going to sign? His favorite sign with the Yankees. So it's like, so that's where we're going there. I think there might be various reasons, for the Marlins. They just they've this year they're going more in numbers at lower guys. I don't have the list. When you're out of the top 50 or not many in there, these are good players who through drafting, through player development, we'll see how they go. But Adrian Lorenzo's now running the international operations. They had to change from the last few years. And, when the situation, we don't know when, what kind of revenues everyone's looking at. So I could see the Marlins being active, but, keep in mind, I think they got, when you mentioned favorite, international signing players, Marcell Ozuna was a big hit. They got him. I think you need look no further back than a couple of years ago. They had Yuri Perez for $200,000. A couple of years ago, and that was an amazing signing. To get Yuri. We looking forward to seeing him, and he's going to be in high A ball probably to start, and he might move fast. He might be we're going to talk a lot about Yuri Perez because I wouldn't completely rule it out that he jumps all the way to the big leagues at 20 in 2022, but that's a story for another day. I like the Mesa signings for the signal it sent. Obviously Victor has had his struggles. Victor Jr., I think it's going to be a very good big leaguer because that showed that the Marlins were willing to go into the international market more aggressively. I thought that was a good signing because I think you have to send a message to players that the Marlins are now are willing to spend top dollar. Through the years, Jose Urena was a very good international signing player. Because I think they paid like $50,000 for him. I mean, just think the cost to acquire, and it's not probably exactly right on Jose, but not a big payday, for him, at least coming out of the, out of the Dominican Republic. But those are really, really impactful signings. Obviously, the greatest international signing in Marlins history is an easy one. It's Miguel Cabrera. To get a Hall of Famer, at 16 years old, and pretty much everyone kind of was penciling him in to be that kind of player coming out of Venezuela. A great international what's his name? Alex Gonzalez. Gonzo was, World Series shortstop and all-star once as a Marlin, great international signing, who was influenced by the signing of Miggy. So this is an important time, and to see that. And I just think, though, at this year's international signing, I think you're going to see, the big boys, the Yankees, Cubs, kind of cleaning up the top five.
Yeah, the usual suspects.
Yeah.
But Joe, let's something we don't usually talk about on here, but we're going to do it because we can't tie it into the Marlins multiple ways, but one of them is we always hear them talk about the importance of their culture and Derek Jeter trying to change the culture when he came in a few years ago. But another crosstown team, the Dolphins, fired Brian Flores last weekend. A little bit of a shock initially, but now all these stories are coming out saying Flores didn't get along with this guy, but most importantly, he didn't get along with Tua. And we just want to talk about, like I said, the importance of culture and everybody organizationally being on the same page and how that can translate to long-term success.
Oh, no question. Because, the Dolphins were like 1-8 or whatever, 1-7, whatever they were. They lost 7 in a row, and then they won 7 in a row, and they finished with a winning record. And all year, all you heard about is Tua the guy, and meanwhile, he missed a few games with injury. There's durability, concerns. There's some, judgment, Tua doesn't always make the smartest decisions, but, he's a dynamic type player who now you hear more and more that, like you say, if he and the coach weren't on the same page, well, the guy who ended up not being moved was Tua. And the change comes as the surprise with a coach who, if you look by all measures, had his team in position to get to the playoffs in Brian Flores. So I do find it fascinating. I do think it is a reminder that there's a lot of factors go into, why, and as someone who's covered about 7 manager changes in all my years with the Marlins, and we were talking about this before we went live about Joe Girardi back in 06, when he came in his 1 year, he gets manager of the year and gets dismissed. The Marlins didn't finish at 500, but they got a little under, and they overperformed, with a $15 million payroll. Obviously, that if you look at that roster, there's a ton of great players. We just, many were just so young you didn't know it yet. But it does show if you're not on the same page with ownership. And I think, when you look at a sport like baseball, where managers are more and more, the front offices are making decisions that affect, the lineup card and so forth, that when your manager isn't on the same page with your front office, the days of the Jack McKeons and maybe the Bruce Bochy's, the strong-willed, manager who could, raise his voice in a meeting and get his way. You're seeing less of that. And now obviously we saw it with the Dolphins and there's always something. There's always something that we may not know. And there always may be some friction behind the scenes that we may not know that leads to these kinds of moves.
Yeah, and I mean, I know you're a Bama guy. I want to ask you, Tua, what do you feel? Is he the long-term answer for the Dolphins?
He's always going to be compared to the one they didn't take. And, I'd be, yes, the emotional part. I love Tua. He helped, win national championship against Georgia, and we won't talk about that one and this the other day. But if you just look at the toolsy guy, and it's Justin Herbert was that guy, and he's going to be held to that. And I think with Tua, it's always been with Tua, and it's with many. It's not just Tua. Why was he so good at Alabama? I mean, he had like first rounders all around him. I think four of his receivers were first round picks, if not more. Calvin Ridley's included in there somewhere. And you have, so that would have been 5. And then you had Najee Harris was a running back, in that national championship game. In the year after, he had Josh Jacobs as a running back, and Damian Harris. He had Irv Smith as his tight end. Why is he dynamic? Because they have playmakers all over the field and speed. I'd like to see, the answer to your question, I'd like to see Tua with Jalen Waddle being able to just use that speed, get way down the field, and someone else with stretch the defense speed and then give him a more consistent running game. Then I think you're going to see Tua. He's proven he can move around a bit. His scramble won that game. I thought, the Patriots looked like they're going to come back and win that game, the last game of the year. And then that 3rd and 8 or whatever, he was in the final 2 minutes, he scrambled for the first down. So he showed he could use his legs when he needs to. It's his decision-making. It's, he makes erratic, he probably should have a couple of picks in that game. I think they dropped a few. It's just, he's not afraid to throw the football. And, it's like when you throw the football, what 2 bad things can happen is the cliche, right? I guess you complete it and then you could be incomplete or intercepted. So, 2 out of 3 things tend to happen with him when he's a little more erratic.
Yeah. He's a little bit frustrating because it's like one of those things where he doesn't play well and then he makes his mistake and then all of a sudden he's locked in.
He played better once he screwed up. He throw a pick 6 and then take you down the field for a touchdown. That's a good sign. He just always seemed to me the player that sometimes you just take the sack, just fall down so you don't
Yeah.
get hit hard. He'd always try to make more out of something, and that's when he just throw the ball up in the air, or maybe he's not on the same page, and he thinks the receiver's breaking one way, and he breaks the other, and next thing you know, he throws right to the DB. Is he going to outgrow that? You hope, but I think his success is contingent on the players they put around him, which is for most. But then he's not just the dynamic guy that can just carry the team no matter what.
Yeah, I agree.
But before we close out this show, I know we want to give a little shout out to Dave Van Horn because he announced his retirement today after 8,000 games called.
Just a little
He's
bit.
been the voice of the radio of my lifetime. I'm sure you have a lot on Dave, so.
Yeah. People, 82 years old, always very energetic. When I started in, it's now 20 years, 2002 was my first year on, doing the Marlins, and Dave and all the broadcasters, everyone was very gracious and they welcomed me in, and I'm always appreciative for that, for their friendships and just knowing them and being around their wisdom. But I think just to reiterate, obviously his longevity with the Marlins, like you said, he's the only radio voice in your lifetime, is the impact he had in the country of Canada. He was the original voice of the Montreal Expos back in 1969, their inaugural season. Dave was with the Expos, and he is in the Hall of Fame in the broadcast wing, got inducted deservedly so in 2011, and it was an honor to be at the winter meetings when that announcement was made and do the stories on Dave. So yeah, he just want to personally congratulate him on an amazing career and for all the class and professionalism, and his resume speaks for itself. And I just wanted our show to acknowledge DVH and wish him nothing but the best in his retirement.
Yeah, we wish
Dave the best, and we appreciate everybody for tuning in, where you can watch this live on the ManOn2nd Twitter page, on the 5 Reasons Sports Network YouTube. Please follow us on the ManOn2nd Twitter page and subscribe to the 5 Reasons YouTube page. And don't forget to check out our partners at the dugoutmugs.com/ManOn2nd. It's right here on the banner here. Joe, appreciate you for coming on as always, and look forward till next week.
Yeah. We want better news and more definitive stuff to say, but I did feel it was important to just kind of weigh in, get a podcast here, and get it going. And we'll have some guests coming in the near future. It's going to be a lot of fun. But we're like everyone else, we're going to wade this out and see where the talks go, and we're going to hope for the best. So as always, appreciate you, Mike, and great job.